Every single time you press send to put a specific offer out into the world, there's one key activity that you really must do. Unfortunately, so many of us don't do it. We assume that everything is right, and so we oftentimes don't do this thing, which almost every time I do that, I regret it. So I've decided to take my regrets and tell you about them so that you don't have these regrets. That thing is this. Can't get the card. There we go. That thing is this. Testing. And when I say testing, I don't mean split testing a headline or something like that. What I mean is test your tech. Make sure that the things that you are giving people actually work as intended. So let me take you through 4 things that you should be focusing on testing as you do this. And then I'm going to talk about how you go about doing that testing to make sure it's right. Okay. Number 1, make sure that everything in that offer does exactly what you intended it does exactly what you intend to have happen. So you need to check every single element in it to be sure. So let's say, for example, that you've got a sales page that you're putting up. All right, good. So actually, before we do that, let's do this. Let's look at an opt-in page, okay? So what you need to make sure is, number 1, they actually get added to your list. It's sometimes surprising to me the number of times that I personally have done a whole page, forgot to hook it up to my email program, and so I'm actually paying for ads to come for people to add, and they're not ending up on my list. And it's like, well, that wasn't smart. Okay. Next, the tags get set properly on that email. So what I do is every time someone opts in, I set a tag that says what offer they came in on, so that I know exactly what they've seen and what they haven't. Make sure that tag gets set. Next, if those tags trigger something else, make sure that those things work too. Oftentimes I'll have a tag trigger introductory sequence. All right. I want to make sure that it actually triggers that sequence so that they actually get those emails in that sequence. Now, if you have some kind of a sales page or something like that, you want to make sure that the money actually makes it into your account. Now, I'm going to talk about this for just a moment because there's something really important that a lot of people do. The credit card companies in most shopping carts have the ability to turn on test mode. And what that does is it enables you to not actually have a card charged and be able to put in all 4s, for example, and a expiration date in the future. And what it'll do is it'll act as if a card had been charged. Well, that's not what I want to do. What I do is I actually go and change the price of that item to $1 because I want to put in a credit card, have it actually charge that card $1, and then I go and check my card to make sure that $1 actually got charged, because I've had several times where I have had a mistake in there somewhere and actually sold stuff for nothing. So they got the product and they never got charged because I was stupid and didn't build a link properly. Make sure you check your upsells for the same thing. So if you have an offer, then on the thank you page for that offer, there's another offer, change that one's price to $1 too, and make sure that that triggers properly, that the money actually makes into your account, that they get the emails associated with it, everything. And by the way, make sure that after you get done with the testing, that you change the price back. I suggest you take everything that I'm talking about here and turn it into a checklist that's specific to the items that you do, and then take that checklist and go through it every single time you do an offer. Next, let's look at this one. Links work. So as you send out an email, oh, of course, I've only done this like 20,000 times. Of course the link works until it doesn't. So actually send the email to yourself in a test situation, click on the link, make sure the link works, Go look at your record. Make sure that the tracking codes, the tracking tags actually worked so that you can see that. Okay. Now, if you're sending them some kind of a product, make sure that they actually got their portal access to be able to get to that product, that it actually works, that the email gets delivered, those kinds of things. Make sure that if there's any kind of downloads, that they happen and it's the right one. I can't tell you the number of times where I have sent them a download, but it's not the download that I promised them. It was some other kind of download. Okay. So that's the testing of your tech. Now let's talk about another piece of testing that's important, which is testing that your tracking works. And so if you're doing anything associated with ads or anything else like that, you're going to want to have conversion pixels on those pages. So Facebook, Google, if you're using, the different tools that you've got their conversion pixels, and you want to make sure that those conversion pixels actually fire properly. Now, this is going to change probably as cookies go away, but we're going to see there will be something that will still be there. Okay. Check that your analytics actually work. Go into your analytics program and double check that this person actually showed up as happening on the screen. I'll tell you, I can't tell you the number of times where I build a page on a page builder and forgot to put my analytics code into that page builder. It's a stupid mistake. Apparently, I'm quite stupid because I keep making it. So make sure that's on your list too. Number 3, so we talked about making sure your tech works. Then we talked about making sure your tracking works. Now let's make sure that everything looks good on all devices and all sizes. So what most people do is they design it on their desktop because that's the easiest place to do it. They go, okay, this looks great. And many people never look at it on a cell phone to make sure that it actually looks great on a cell phone. And so design first for cell phones. Make it look good on cell phones, and then loop back and make sure a separate version of it. And in page building programs, you can check a box, say, okay, I'm doing the cell phone version. You can check another box for, okay, I don't want this to show up. So you uncheck the cell phone box, and now I want this to show up on pads, and then uncheck that and do a third version that I want to show this to show up on desktop. And you design each one of those to work. Okay. So you design first for cell phone because that's where most of your traffic is going to come from, and then adapt it to desktop. Now, this entire process, you got to bring this one up here. Number 4, if you're advanced, make sure you do what is called load testing. So if you're able to send 10,000 people to a site, the moment you send out an email, you're probably going to want to make sure that your server actually can handle 10,000 people going to that site at that particular moment. That's really key. Now, you don't have to worry about that if you're just a beginner, but at some point, you're going to get to that point and you're going to want to be doing that testing. Now, how do we go about doing this testing? So personally, I have 2 other people outside of my office, different places in the world, test everything. They go through that entire process. And since I am not a detail-oriented person, personally, I'm more of a strategist. I want those to be detail-oriented people who pay attention to things like, is there a typo there? Did everything work? Who will go through every single element and make sure that it worked. Now, I strongly suggest that you don't get lazy in this process. Never assume that something works. I've done this 2,000 times. Of course, I know how to do a link. Well, when you do that, you're getting lazy, and that's what's going to create errors. Testing is a must-do activity so that you make sure you get the very best results out of everything that you do. All right, have you ever had a disaster where you forgot to test something and you had a bad result happen as a result? Tell me about it down in the comments. I'd love to hear. This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.